the previous lecture, that is solid state phase transformation. I'll give some example. Okay, basically we know that solid state phase transformation means the material will be in solid state, but there will be a transformation, and that is nothing but change in crystal structure. We know that. And due to change in crystal structure, the property also changes. We know that also. Okay? So I can say like this: solid 1 will become solid 2 simply. But this is same. The structure over here will be different from the structure over here. That's all, basically. Or I can say solid 1 will become solid 2 plus solid 3, like this. Or I can say solid 1 plus solid 2 will give you solid 3, like this. Fine. That means here two products are here. Here this is one single product and this is also single product. Right? So best example I can give you this one is what? Can you give an example where one solid become next another solid having different crystal structure?
Perlite.
Very good. In pure iron, we basically see those metals which shows allotropic transformation. Allotropes, same chemical element but different physical forms. Right? Physical form, different physical forms is different crystal structure. Right? So arrangement of atoms will be just different, indifferent, right? So this example I have allotropic transformation. Or instead of transformation, what you can also say? Transition, right? Because there will be no change in composition, right? Fix. So simple example I can give is iron. In case of iron, that is gamma iron becomes alpha iron, for example. Right? Or gamma iron will become delta iron. Or you can say alpha iron will become gamma iron. You can see FCC, BCC. FCC, again, this one is delta is BCC, very good, BCC. But what is the difference between alpha and delta? Delta is a high temperature BCC form, no? Just below the melting point. Alpha is a basically low temperature, from room temperature to some temperature, right? Okay, you understood the transformation, right? You can see here one solid become another solid, so one solid become another solid, right? Very good. Okay, let me tell you one important point. Many people get confused that what is the difference between allotropic transformation and polymorphism. Right? You have heard about this polymorphism. Poly means many, morphism many forms. Poly means many, morph means many forms. Right? So difference is if transformation is happening in pure elements or pure metals or in pure compound, then that is allotropic transformation. Iron is pure and it is having different crystal structure. So that is allotropic transformation. You cannot say polymorphism basically. But if transformation will happen in alloys, alloy is not pure. Two metals will be there, or one metal, one non-metal, or one metal, many non-metals may be there, right? Alloys, right? If two different things will be there, at least. So if there will be a transformation, that is called polymorphic transformation or polymorphous transformation. You should remember that. Anyways, so this is one important point. So that means allotropic transformation can happen in pure compound also. I told there will be no change in the composition basically. So pure compound transformation, can you give some example? Okay, other examples you can write like tin, if you remember. Tin also show transformations. Cobalt, tin, they show transformations. Anybody remember what about cobalt? Cobalt is used to make superalloys. You know the reason why, because at high temperature it will be in FCC form. Closed pack structure, FCC. Diffusion will be not there. But what about low temperature form? What about low temperature form of cobalt? Sure. Cobalt is sorry. HCl. Cobalt is HCl. Okay, but high temperature it is FCC. Okay, fine. Okay, let me write some example. This is pure metal, pure element. And if I write some compounds, so I can write aluminum. You can have alpha aluminum. You can have gamma aluminum. Right? Pure alumina. Alumina is a compound. It is a ceramic compound. Right? Why it is a ceramic compound? Because it is a oxide. Right? It is an oxide. Alumina is a metal, but aluminum oxide is a ceramic. Right? Oxides, carbides, nitrides, those are ceramics. Right? And you understand why ceramics? Because aluminum is positive, oxygen is negative. So in ceramics, you know the bonding. Basically, ionic bonding. Basically, now ionic bonding you remember because of electrostatic attraction between positive and negative ion. Right? Like NaCl. Na is positive and Cl is minus, negative. So it is an attraction. So it is also ceramic, right? You understand, anyways. So this is one example where ceramics or a oxide is showing transformation, gamma, alpha, like that. Similarly, if you write TiO2, what is this? Sometimes rutile and anatase. You can check the crystal structures by your own. I will give you the assignment. So similarly, silica, tridimite, cristobalite, and quartz. Tridimite, cristobalite, quartz. So, see, you should understood why the same compound is showing different forms. Can you tell me? Why the same compound showing different forms? This form is different from this form. How? Because of different in crystal structures. But material is same, silica. SiO2 will be there. Silicon and oxygen will be there, right? But they will arrange in a different fashion. Why this is happening? Because of stability. At a particular temperature, a particular crystal structure will be stable. Right? Like for example, below 870 degrees centigrade, this will be there. If you go to a temperature, suppose above 1700, this may be there. Right? If you go above higher temperature, this structure will be there. Right? You understand my point? Because we know that if you change the temperature, the stability changes. A particular phase will not remain stable. If it becomes unstable, it will convert to another form, and it will convert to that form, which one will be stable. You understand my point? So these are certain examples where I can show this kind of transformation, solid to solid. These are allotropic transformation. All are pure. Metals are pure. Your compounds, ceramics are also pure. Okay. So now, can you tell me about this one? Any reaction where one solid, ectectoid, very good. Right? Best example is ectectoid. What is that? Gamma become
alpha plus Fe.
Very good. So this is solid, this is solid, this is solid, right? All are solid. So solid 1 becomes solid 2 and solid 3. Why I am writing 2, 3? Because 3 is different, 2 is different, that's why. It is okay. Best example is ectectoid reaction. That is solid 1 becomes solid 2 and solid 3. And this kind of reaction is actually perictectoid, you should write it. Perictectoid reaction. And this is your assignment to find out in which alloys this kind of reaction is happening. Perictectoid. Okay, perictectoid means, you understand, that means suppose this is two solid will combine to give you one solid. Here one solid become two solid. But here two solid will combine, react and form one solid. Fine? For example, you can say alpha plus beta will give you, for example, alpha is one solid, gamma Beta is as a solid and it becomes gamma. Fine. So these are certain examples. You can check the structures. They will be different completely. There is a transformation called, okay, I will not write right now, okay. If you remember the classification of phase transformation in broad sense, right? Military and civilian, right? And you know the characteristics of each. But if you carefully look, we also have classified the transformation on the basis of thermodynamics and on the basis of kinetics. On the basis of thermodynamics, what are those? First order or higher order? First order or higher order, right? In first order, there will be nucleation and growth kind of transformation, always. But in higher order, it will be, entire volume will be transformed directly, right? And according to kinetics, I told the transformation will be two types. One is diffusion based, another diffusion less. Or that means diffusion based means there will be diffusion. Right? Atoms will migrate to a large distance in a random manner. Right? In diffusion less, atoms will not migrate basically, but if they will migrate together in the same time in the same direction. The coordinate movement of atom or military movement of atom, right? If you remember. Okay, very good. So fine. So finally, I want to say is okay. Solid state phase transformation. You can classify them according to kinetics. This is according to kinetics. And according to kinetics, this will be diffusional, and this will be non-diffusional or diffusionless. Diffusional means diffusion based, and diffusionless. Right? Okay. The best example you remember is the Martin-Fayet transformation. You remember, right? But now we want to classify this one. Diffusional, where atoms will move. All atoms will move. Right? For example, if steel is there, that is iron. Obviously carbon will be there. If some alloying element will be there, all will move. Iron will move, carbon atoms will move, alloying element is present, they will also move in a random fashion. They will take a different structure at the end due to this diffusion. Okay. So diffusional transformation may be short range and then long range. Short range diffusion, long range diffusion. It exactly means short range diffusion means the atoms will move to a shorter distance, like few atomic distance. But long range diffusion means the atoms will move to a large atomic distance. Suppose 50 atomic distance or 100 atomic distance, like that, right? Or if you are talking about grain boundary, you can say atoms will cross few grain boundary, or in long range it will cover lot of grain boundaries, right? Long range. Range means distance I am talking about. Fine. So basically, if you want to write the examples of this, one example is you can write massive transformation. Massive. Example, massive transformation, allotropic transformation, and order disorder transformation, and okay, next is like spinodal transformation. These are certain examples. We have already talked about this one in IPM and in this class also sometimes. Right? Order and disorder also we have talked about this one in IPM, if you remember. No? In zinc copper system, very good. She remember. At low temperature that is ordered, at high temperature that will be disorders. Right? Anybody remember? She remember that. Copper and zinc system. Suppose copper and zinc system will form FCC structure finally. FCC structure means atoms will be at the corners and it will be the center of each face. We know that. That is FCC. That means copper will arrange and zinc will arrange, both are together. Suppose copper will occupy only corner positions and face center positions will be occupied by zinc. That is ordered. You understood? But if you change the temperature, you take the material to a high temperature, then what will happen? Corner will be occupied by both copper and zinc, and similarly face center will be occupied by copper and zinc. Suppose left side face center will be copper, right side face center will be zinc. Right? So that is this order. There is no proper order. That is happening due to temperature, change in temperature. Okay? Fine. So you understood. You understood this one, you understood this one. And spinodal we will discuss that in coming lecture. Massive transformation. Massive transformation means the transformation which occurs at a very fast rate. If transformation occurs at a very fast rate, that is called massive transformation. And you know the reason why? Because the answer is here. Diffusion is short. If atom will move to a short distance, transformation will happen. Right? If the atom will move to a long distance, then it will take time, obviously. You understand my point? So this long range transformation takes time always. They will not occur at fast rate. But this kind of transformation, massive transformation, occurs at faster rate because of shorter distance of diffusion. The path is very short. Diffusion path is very short. Okay, atom will only move to a few atomic distance. That's all. And massive transformations are nothing but actually this polymorphous phase transformation are called massive transformation. You can write also. Polymorphous phase transformation. Anyways, so diffusion and this one example is long range. Okay, long range is precipitation. Precipitation, phase transformation. Other examples. Okay, other examples is already we have discussed ectectoid and peritectoid. Transformation. Okay. So these are the examples. You understand? You have in ectectoid transformation, you have initial gamma, austenite. All the grains are austenite, right? Everything is FCC. But when it will form alpha, which is BCC, and also it forms cementite, which is orthorhombic. You can imagine that means atom has to completely break down. Initial FCC atoms will come out and they will start arranging somewhere in BCC form and somewhere they will arrange in orthorhombic form. So obviously it will take some time, obviously, right? And there is a distance between the atoms will be more, or diffusion path will be very high. So that's why it is a long range diffusion process. Okay? And similarly, peritectoid, we will discuss about this one today, which is very important. Precipitation. Okay, fine. Up to this it is okay. Then next. Okay, in the previous lecture also we have discussed that is what are the energy involved during phase transformation. Anybody remember? What are different energy involved during phase transformation? One is free energy, that is gives free energy. Very good. Anything else?
Surface energy.
Surface energy, or that is called interfacial energy. Okay. And last one? Strain energy. Very good. You people have remembered. I am very happy. Anyway, so three energies are involved. One is free energy. That is Z always, or delta Z you can say. No problem. And, or that is change in free energy. Right? And second one is surface energy. And or you can write interfacial. And last one is strain. Okay? Fine. Strain energy. And you remember, whenever you want a transformation, then this will be reduced always. Basically, this should reduce, then only phase transformation will happen, right? That means reactant should have higher free energy, product should have lower free energy. Then only reactant become product, right? So, but surface energy and strain energy, they basically increase the energy of the system during transformation, always. This is basically positive and this is basically positive. And if you remember, I have also told you that what is delta GF when a tiny solid nuclei forms inside a liquid. You remember the expression?
4 by 3
In the
pi
previous lecture, I also told you delta GF.
4 by 3.
Delta GF is nothing but the change in free energy of formation of a tiny solid nuclei inside a liquid. Liquid to solid transformation. Right? Liquid becomes solid. How liquid becomes solid? If there will be first nucleation, then this nuclei should grow, then transformation will happen complete. Right? So when a tiny solid nuclei will form inside a liquid, then that will be delta GF, change in free energy of formation of that tiny solid nuclei. Right? You remember the expression?
4 by 3
Two
pi.
things will be important. One is volume.
Yes.
One is surface.
Surface.
Right? That is
4 by 3 pi r square.
very good. 4 by 3 pi r cube.
GF minus
GS minus GL. Very good. Plus
4 pi r square.
R square. This is important and this is important. If you remember, this term is always
Negative.
this term is
Positive.
very good. Remember. When a surface will be created, energy increases. That's why it is positive. But due to transformation, this you remember. Liquid is becoming solid. But this is liquid is becoming solid. So this is solid minus liquid. So it will be negative.
Negative.
Fine. Okay. That's fine. Then okay. So I can write also instead of this I can write 4 by 3 pi r cube. GS minus GL is nothing but
Driving force.
delta GV. V means volume, change in free energy. GS minus G, change in free energy, that is delta G. And this is associated with the volume, so I can write delta GV. V means volume. It is okay now? Same expression. Right? But why I am writing delta GV? Because I want to show solid state transformation. Here this solid and liquid, but here it will be solid and solid. You understand my point? This kind of transformation is liquid to solid transformation. But here we are discussing solid state phase transformation. One solid become another solid. So instead of GS minus 0, you can write delta GV, no problem. One solid become another solid. So solid minus solid. Okay, product solid minus reactant solid. Okay. Plus 4 pi r square gamma. And if you remember also in the previous lecture we have discussed that how strain will come into picture. How? Anybody remember? Due to change in volume or due to change in shape? Very good. Because the parent phase shape and product phase shape may not be same, right? Suppose austenite have a particular shape. That doesn't mean martensite will have same phase, same shape. Sorry, shape will be different. If shape will be different, some strain will be coming into picture. That is called shear strain, if you remember. And the volume of the parent phase may not be same as the volume of the product phase. Then there will be different in volume. But material is same, the volume of the material is same, but volume of phase is different. So there will be a strain in the material due to phase transformation. Okay, right? So that strain is called what? Dilatation, right? Very good. So there will be dilatation strain, there will be shear strain. Dilatation strain will be due to change in volume, and shear strain will be due to shape. And anybody remember if this kind of strain in the material is associated with stress or without associated with stress?
Shear free strain.
Without associated with the stress. I told no. If you are applying load on the material, then stress and strain both will be there in the material. Fine. But we are not applying any kind of load. Only phase transformation is happening. So only strain will be present. There will be no stress. Basically. Anyway, so finally this is surface energy term, no? Or interfacial energy term. This is volume energy term. Okay, forget about this. But okay, fine. You have a solid and a new solid is forming. So what is happening? This is the surface. So there will be surface energy. That is fine. It is here, right? And initially, okay, fine. Initially, this is the volume. Fine. This much of volume has disappeared and new volume has formed, right? Suppose this earlier this is the entire volume. This volume has been disappeared. That's why this is forming, right? So this is this. You understand the point? Like suppose initially this is all liquid. Some of the liquid will be disturbed here. That's why this kind of solid is forming. That's why this is here, right? And a new surface is forming. Initially this is all the surface, but a new surface is formed. So in between these two surfaces there will be an interface that is here. And now the last important point, as I told, shape may be different, or I told the volume may be different. The volume of this one will be different from the initial volume, or the shape may be different from the initial shape, right? So the most important point is how this strain is coming. Just listen it carefully. Due to change in crystal structure and or maybe due to change in the lattice parameter. You understood? Suppose I'm talking about aluminium. I'll measure the lattice parameters. I'll take iron. I'll measure the lattice parameter. Are they same? No, different metals. So lattice parameter will be different. Obviously, no. Lattice parameter is distance between the atomic layers. Because all are crystalline materials. Atomic layers will be there, right? Similarly, you have initially a phase. It will be having a lattice parameter. Suppose these are the lattice parameters. This is the distance. But suppose this kind of phase is forming. If its lattice parameter will be like this much, but earlier you have a lattice parameter of this much. Initial lattice parameter is this one. This much. But this lattice parameter is what? Higher. You understand my point? That means atomic layer in this phase is the distance between the atomic layer is more in this new phase. But earlier phase there was less distance between the atomic layer. So what will happen? Strain will be there obviously. Obviously there will be a strain in the material, right? That will push. This atomic layer will push the initial atomic layers. Okay, fine. So that means my point is finally what will be there? Strain. Energy will be there. Additional term. So this is about your solidification. But when we are talking about solid to solid transformation, new thing will come into picture. That is due to strain. Whenever there will be strain, there will be strain energy. So one additional term will be there. So that means when a new solid will come out from initial solid due to transformation, these are the energy involved. Energy involved due to volume, energy involved due to interfacial area, and one energy will be involved due to strain energy. And if somebody will ask why this strain energy will come, you can simply say one point you can say change in volume, change in, or if there will be change in shape. You can say like that. But for best explanation, you simply say initial crystal structure and final crystal structure may not be same. So if there will be change in crystal structure, strain will come. And second one, if there will be different in lattice parameter. Right? Suppose I can give an example. Copper is FCC, aluminium is FCC, right? Both are same crystal structure, right? But if you measure the lattice parameter, it will be not same. Listen it carefully. Crystal structure may be same. Sometimes lattice parameter may not same. So if there will be different in lattice parameter between the parent phase and product phase, there will be strain in the material, right? Or sometimes what happened? For example, austenite was FCC. Austenite is FCC, right? That is iron, for example. Or that is steel, for example. It will be iron carbon steel, austenite, FCC. But when cementite will form, it is orthorhombic. So complete there is a change in crystal structure. So obviously there will be strain in the steel now due to formation of this cementite. Because cementite is different crystal structure, that is orthorhombic. But initially you have austenite, which is FCC. So my point is, if there will be change in crystal structure due to formation of new phase, strain will be there. And if there will be same crystal structure of parent phase and product phase, but if there will be change in the lattice parameter, then also there will be strain in the material, right? So that is called strain energy. So I can simply write, suppose the new phase is spherical again, so it will be 4 by 3 pi r cube g e can write. This is the strain energy, you can say. I think it is fine up to this. So you people have understood why additional energy is adding to our complete change in free energy or formation of new phase. If you forget, then I can write change in free energy of formation of new solid phase in parent phase. Or from parent phase, in parent phase, or basically why I am writing in parent phase, because I want to talk about precipitates. Precipitate means precipitates are primary phases or secondary phases. Secondary phases, right? Your primary phases will be the initial material. Free energy of formation of new solid phase in parent phase, right? Okay, this is fine. Up to this it is okay to everybody? Okay, the next is I'll talk about energy. Okay, fine. Main boundary, precipitation. See, I don't want to go into the strengthening part because I have explained already in the IPM, if you remember. In the last topic, I have covered dispersion strengthening, precipitation strengthening, grain boundary strengthening, if you remember. How? Because strengthening means dislocation cannot move. You remember, dislocation want to move, but when it will meet a precipitate, it will stop. Because precipitate will not allow the dislocation to move easily. And you remember how dislocation crosses the precipitate. By bowing, if you remember. Anybody know bowing mechanism, or it will shear, it will cut it, right? Okay. That means, suppose I will take pure aluminium. Can I make a precipitate? Can I make a precipitate? Never. It is a pure aluminium, right? So unless until I will add some other alloying element, then precipitate will never form. And it doesn't mean other alloying element will form precipitate. It is not always true. If you remember, whenever you add a alloying element into pure metal, what happens? Either it will form substitutional solid solution, you remember? It will completely get dissolved, like aluminium, nickel and copper. Copper will dissolve in nickel, nickel will dissolve in copper. They will completely soluble. Suppose nickel will replace the copper and sit in that position, right? It will form solid solution, and that will give you solid solution strengthening, right? Again, that is due to strain, if you remember, because size of atoms are different. Right? Or it may react. If they will react, what will form? It will form a what? It will form a compound. See, whenever you are adding something, suppose you are adding carbon into iron, carbon will go into the interstitial position and it will form interstitial solid solution, right? But if you add more amount of carbon, it will react with iron, and what it will form? Fe3C, right? Right? If it will not react, it will form solid solution. But if it will react, it will form compound. And that compound is a precipitate. Precipitate is nothing but your compound. It may be carbide, maybe nitride, maybe carbonitride, or maybe intermetallic compound. You understand my point? It may be intermetallic compound. If carbon will be there, maybe it forms carbide. If nitrogen will be there, it may form nitride. But if carbon, nitrogen both will be there, it may form carbonitride. But suppose they are not there, carbon and nitrogen are not there, and there is a certain alloying element which will react with the primary metal. It will form an intermetallic phase. And intermetallic phase is nothing but a precipitate. So that means what I mean to say, you understood? You are adding copper into aluminium. Listen it carefully. You are adding copper into aluminium. So the moment you add copper into aluminium, first of all, aluminium have a copper has a solubility limit. Copper will dissolve into aluminium. Why it will dissolve? You understood? Because aluminium is FCC, copper is also FCC. You remember the Hume-Guthrie rule? Anybody remember Hume-Guthrie rule? Hume-Guthrie rule tells about the solubility limit. If you are adding an alloying element into the parent metal, it will be soluble or not soluble. That will be decided by Hume-Guthrie rule. First rule is same crystal structures. If alloying element crystal structure and the parent metal crystal structure are same, it will be soluble. First criteria, no? Second criteria, size factor. If size will be less than 15% difference, then it will be soluble. Then electronegativity, very good. If electronegativity difference will be high, what will happen? It will form compound. But if it will be less, it will be soluble. It will form solid solution. And last one, anybody remember? Size factor, crystal structure factor, electronegativity, and valency. Valency. Higher valency metal soluble in lower valency metal, but lower valency metal is insoluble in higher valency metal. I have given you an example. You can check it if you want. Like copper and zinc. Yes, copper and zinc. If you add zinc into copper, it will be soluble. But if you add copper into zinc, it will be not soluble much. You can check it if you want. Anyway, we'll discuss about this one. So, but okay, I can suggest you please go through your internet and check it. The copper aluminium phase diagram. Please, just have a look. You can write copper aluminium phase diagram. And the diagram is so complicated, it is so complicated, you will get confused. It is a very complicated diagram. The right side will be so confusing, you will get confused. Right? It is a very complicated diagram, you can imagine. Right? But you have to concentrate on the left side part. Just check the left side part. That is important for us whenever we are talking about precipitation strengthening in aluminium. Left side part. And left side part is very easy. Can you tell me the left side part of the diagram is resembling which kind of phase diagram? Iron. Eutectic. Just check. There is a eutectic point. There is a eutectic horizontal. The liquid become too solid. Alpha plus theta. You are checking? Yes? Okay, just have a look. So I can draw the diagram quickly. So my point is, don't remember the whole diagram. You have to remember the left side part of the diagram to explain precipitation in aluminium alloys. That means the moment you are adding copper into aluminium, what will happen? First, copper will become soluble. It will form a solid solution, right? But when you add more amount of copper, then aluminium cannot accommodate more copper. It will reject. So what will happen? Aluminium and copper will react and it will form a precipitate or a compound. That is intermetallic compound, Al2Cu. It is written over there, Al2Cu. You can check if it is written Al2Cu or what. So that particular precipitate is Al2Cu. Two atoms of aluminium and one atom of copper, when come together, they will form a compound. Right? Okay, anyways, I can draw the diagram. And you remember, phase diagram means the y-axis will be temperature, x-axis will be composition always. Right? Let it be. This will be very small. Very small. You remember this top part is liquid. Right? This is alpha. This is in this here, this is theta. So this will be liquid plus alpha. This will be liquid plus theta. So this will be alpha plus theta. This one. But if I write aluminium in this end, shall I write what I should write? Copper. But can I write copper? No, I cannot write copper 100% because this is not 100% end. Right? In iron carbon diagram also we are writing 6.67% of carbon. not 100% carbon. Similarly, how much carbon copper is there? Can you check it? 60. Up to this diagram. I think 56. 56. 66. Are you sure?
So 35.
I think 56. Okay, this point is 5.6 or how much? Or 5.5? 5.6 or 5.6. This point will be 32 or 33? 33. And this point will be how much? 52. And this will be, I think, 56. Huh? How much? 56. So I can simply write what? Weight percentage of copper? No problem. 100% aluminium, and you are increasing copper slowly. So just by looking at this diagram, you can say the solubility limit of copper into aluminium. How much? It is 5.6. 5.6. This is the maximum solubility. If you are adding copper up to 5.6, it will become soluble in aluminium. Right? But at a definite temperature. Listen, just have a look. This is the temperature axis, right? This is the composition axis. Composition. Okay, anybody remember what is this point called? This is the pure aluminium, so this will be melting point of pure aluminium. This will be 660. And this side I cannot show because this is not 100% copper. I cannot show 100%. But this will be, I think, maybe how much? Okay, this is, you remember this line is for eutectic horizontal. So this is how much? 450 or 550?
550.
548. Okay, 548. Anyway. 548. So now, what are different boundaries you remember, right? This boundary is called what? This boundary?
Liquidus.
The first, this top boundary is called liquidus, very good. And this boundary is called solidus, very good. And this is eutectic horizontal. Fine. And what is this line? Solvus, yeah, very good, you remember. So this part is important for us. This is your solvus boundary. And what is the definition of solvus boundary? It is the boundary between two different solids. Because alpha is one solid and alpha plus theta is another solid. So this is the boundary between two solids. Solvus line or solvus means it is a boundary between two solids. Liquidus means it is a boundary between liquid and mixture of two phase. Solidus means it is a boundary between solid and mixture of two phase. Or in simple word, you can say liquidus line means above this everything is liquid. Solidus line means below this everything is solid. In this way you can remember. Right? And you have seen that the maximum solubility of copper in aluminium is 5.6 weight percentage, but at this eutectic temperature. That is maximum solubility. But if you are going down, what is happening to the solubility of copper? If you are going down, what is happening to the solubility of copper in aluminium? It is decreasing or increasing or fixed? Decreasing. Obviously you can see the diagram. This line is like this, it's a curve. So maximum solubility is this much. Then when you are going down, solubility is decreasing. Just check. This is decreasing, decreasing, decreasing and decreasing. Right? You understand my point? So the moment you are going down, or if temperature will be low, solubility will be low. If temperature will be high, solubility will be high. Okay? Okay, can you tell me what is alpha means? What is alpha? If somebody will ask what is alpha, or normal, what is alpha in metallurgy? Alpha is a Greek alphabet, and we always represent a solid solution by a Greek alphabet like gamma, like beta, alpha, beta, gamma, delta. These are all Greek alphabets. We always represent a solid solution by these Greek alphabets. So alpha is a solid solution now. Solid solution of what? Solid solution of copper in aluminium. Very good. Right? Solid solution of copper. But this kind of solid solution is interstitial or substitutional? Interstitial, what you are saying? Substitutional, no? Because copper is also bigger atom. Right? So if you are adding a bigger atom, how it will go into the interstitial site? Interstitial sites are very small. Only smaller atom can go into the interstitial sites like carbon, boron, hydrogen, like this. You understand my point? So that means alpha is a solid solution of copper in aluminium. And alpha means it is a solid solution, means it is a single phase or mixture of phase or what? It is mixture of phase. Single phase now, because copper is completely soluble. You cannot distinguish where copper is present, where aluminium is present. Everything remains same. Okay, how to identify a single phase solid solution? By looking at the microstructure. If you put under a microscope, what you will see? If I will take the alpha region, I will take an alloy in the alpha region, and I will polish it and I will put under a microscope. What I will see? What I will see? It is a polycrystalline material, so you can able to see the grain and grain boundary, obviously. But you will not able to see anything else. Only grain and grain boundary. Right? It is okay? But if I will choose a region of this region, I will take an alloy of this region. So what you will see? This is a mixture of phase. So what you will able to see? Some contrast. Somewhere it will be darker, somewhere it will be lighter. Because two different things, two different phases are there. Different phases have different contrast when you etch it. You have seen now how you are doing etching. You have used nitrile, I think, for right? Nitrile and pickerel maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway, you understood my point. If you take any portion of alpha region of this alloy composition, you will only see grain boundary because it is a single phase. That's why. Anyways, so now the question is, okay, I will choose a weight percent. This is suppose. This is 4 weight percent of copper in aluminium. So I have chosen a composition of this much. So I decide that I want to make an alloy which contain 4 weight percentage of copper in aluminium. You take a pure aluminium, you add 4 weight percentage of copper. So it becomes this much. Right? So if this alloy will be there, so initially you have alpha and theta. Two different phases. Alpha is one phase, theta is another phase. Matrix one is, which one is matrix? Alpha is very good. Alpha is always matrix. Why? Because maximum aluminium is present. That's why it is alpha. This end is what? This end is aluminium rich. This end is copper rich, you can say. Right? This end is aluminium rich. This end is copper rich because this is weight percentage of copper in this direction. Okay, fine. So that means the alpha is your matrix. What is theta now? Theta is the precipitate actually. You have to remember, alpha is the matrix phase, theta is the precipitate. Fine. Okay, if you are getting confused, I can draw a diagram like this quickly. So that means these are alpha grains. Fine? Alpha grains. And where the precipitate will form basically? Preferentially? On a grain boundary is very good. So suppose this is like this for example. So what is this?
Theta.
You understand my point? Just wait. Okay, fine. So you people have understood. So alpha is the matrix phase, theta is the precipitate. Right? You have chosen 4 weight percent. Oh, I have chosen 4 weight percentage of copper in aluminium now. Then, if I will heat this alloy, I am heating this alloy and I am going to a region of this one. I reach at this point. So what will happen to the alloy at this point? Alloy will be remaining solid state, right? Because this is solidus. This boundary is the solidus boundary. Remember, right? And you are at this temperature, and you want to look at the under a microscope. What is the structure? So what you can see?
Only alpha.
At this temperature, you are seeing alpha and theta both. But at this temperature, what you will able to see?
Only alpha.
Only alpha. Very good. You understood my point now? That means if you are going to this much of temperature, all the copper is getting soluble in aluminium. That's why it is forming a single phase. But the moment you, again, suppose you go to this temperature, fine, you hold it, you will find only alpha. That means this precipitate will be getting disappeared. They will get disappeared now because all the copper will become soluble now. So there will be no precipitate. This is the situation now. But again, if you decrease the temperature and you move to this point is the solvus line. Suppose at this temperature, what will happen? Again, what will happen? Alpha will become alpha plus
Theta.
theta. You understood the point? So that means initially you are going to the single phase region, so all the copper will be soluble in aluminium, it will form alpha phase only. But again, if you pull down and you reach just below the solvus line, again what will happen? Copper will come out. Some of the copper will come out. Right? Come out from the aluminium matrix and it will form precipitate, that is theta. So you have alpha plus theta again. Right? So you have to remember, in any phase diagram, if you look at in any phase diagram, if there will be a solvus line, that means always a precipitate will form at the solvus line or just below the solvus line, a precipitate will form always. And you can justify why at this solvus line or below the solvus line theta is coming out or copper is coming out from the aluminium again. Because the diagram is saying, the diagram itself is saying everything. That means the solubility limit is decreasing. I told you once, you can check this line. At this much of temperature, solubility is this much. Right? And your maximum solubility is this much. So this much of copper will be soluble. Because 4% is less than 5.6 at this temperature. So all the copper is soluble now. Right? But same amount of copper and you are reducing the temperature. So solubility limit will be, at this temperature will be less. Because you can see, initial solubility limit is this much. But when you are at this temperature, the solubility limit is less or higher?
Less.
Less. Again you are going down. So solubility limit will be again less. So more you go down, more amount of copper will what? Come out from the aluminium. So if more amount of copper will come out, it will form more amount of theta. More precipitates will be there. Up to this it is clear, I think.
Yes, sir.
Right? Anybody remember when I was talking about heat treatment, the diagram for heat treatment for precipitation strengthening? Anybody remember? Huh? Solutionizing, then ACE hardening. Anybody remember? Solutionizing and ACE hardening. Anybody remember? Okay, let me explain quickly all of this. Whenever you are going to a single phase region, you are forming a single phase solid solution. That is called solutionizing. Okay? Solutionizing means everything become soluble. A single phase will be there. If you have initial precipitate also, they will soluble. Only single phase. That is solutionizing. The name itself is the same. Everything becomes solution. That is actually solid solution, not liquid. Next step is actually called precipitation ACE hardening. ACE hardening means, okay fine. After solutionizing, what we do, we basically quench it to the room temperature. So if you quench from this temperature, if you quench it, quench means very fast rate of cooling, right? You can put it into water from that high temperature. What will happen? Copper cannot escape because copper will not find time to escape out of the solution. It will remain in the alpha phase or in the aluminium itself. But if you do slow cooling, then copper will get some time to come out. You understood my point? So first step is solutionizing heat treatment, where all the copper will become soluble in the aluminium. It will form a single phase alpha. Next step is quenching. You quench the alloy from that temperature by putting it into water, very fast rate. So copper will not get time to come out. So no theta will form. If copper will not come out, no theta will form, no precipitate will form. But you want precipitates of smaller size. What you can do? You again have to heat the alloy to some temperature. So when you heat the alloy to certain temperature, you are providing some activation energy to the alloy. So what will happen? Again copper will diffuse because you are providing some temperature. If you provide some temperature, diffusion will become what? Higher. You know, diffusion rate depends upon temperature. So copper will diffuse out from the solution and it will form theta again. But that is interesting point is what? Interesting point is the precipitate form will be of very small size. But if you remember, I have talked this one again. Suppose you are at this temperature, you are doing solutionizing. But if you cool slowly, then also theta will form. Yes or no? You are cooling at a slow rate, slowly, you reach at this point and theta will start forming. But I am saying you are doing solutionizing, then you are doing quenching, then you are doing what? Aging. Aging means you are heating the alloy again to certain temperature. This is one part. But suppose you are doing solutionizing, but you are doing normal cooling. What is the difference? Can you tell me? In this process also theta will form. In this process also theta will form. But what is the difference? In this form, you will get big size precipitate. Right? Because precipitation starts from higher temperature. Higher is the temperature, coarser will be the phase, particular phase. Right? Because diffusion is high. But if you solutionize it, then you quench it, but you heat it to suppose this much of temperature only. You hold the alloy at this temperature. This is the aging temperature, for example. What will happen? The temperature is very low, but precipitation will be there because in this region theta is also stable. But that precipitate will be of small size precipitate. So that will give you more advantage or limitation. If you have smaller precipitates, that will give you more advantages. Because if lot of small precipitates means lot of precipitate will be there. Right? Big precipitate means few precipitate will be there. Right? Your volume fraction is same. L to Cu volume fraction will be same. You understand my point? Suppose you take big size of rock, you break it into small size. But amount of material is same. But you have lot of small size rocks, right? For example. So if you do this kind of thing, you will get coarser precipitate. That is not good. Coarser precipitate means distance between the precipitate will be less or more? More, obviously. Obviously it will be more. Suppose two precipitates are there, right? So a dislocation is coming and interact with this precipitate and it will come across this one. Again it will find time to move easily. Unless until it will meet next precipitate. But if you have small precipitates everywhere, so everywhere dislocation want to move, it will stop. Because lot of precipitates will be there, right? So finer precipitates are, that's why good. It will provide you more strength. So this one we do in the real situation to get alpha plus theta in aluminium copper alloy. I think you people have understood now. It is okay? Okay, I want to draw phase diagram. I'll take 5 minutes more. See, this particular subject is called phase diagram. Phase transformation. So always I want to do what? We have to convert the phase diagram into G versus X diagram. Free energy versus composition diagram. Fine. So if you want to draw. So now please tell me first, how many phases are present? Like in for example isomorphous system, we have two phases. One is alpha and liquid. You remember? From the online lectures, alpha and liquid both. Right? Here how many phases? 3 phases or 2 or 3? 3. Theta is one phase, alpha is one phase, liquid is one phase. Very good. 3 phases are there. So you have to show 3 different curves for individual curve for individual phase. Right? So this is free energy versus X. X means composition. This is free energy. So you want to draw free energy versus composition curve for 3 phases. What is that? Liquid, alpha and theta. But you remember this end is not 100% copper. So I can write aluminium here, but I cannot write copper here. Listen it carefully, right? Because if this will be 100% copper, I can write copper. So I will write this much of composition, 56, what you have written. And what is interesting, this part is very small part. That means stability of theta is very small, right? But this part is somewhat bigger, right? So if you start with left side, that means aluminium rich phase, then which phase is stable? In between alpha, theta and liquid, which one is stable? Alpha is there, very good, alpha is stable, and in this end, theta will be there. That means clearly showing that in this end you have to show less free energy or decreasing free energy of the alpha, and this end you have to show decreasing free energy of the theta. And what happened to the liquid? Liquid have higher free energy compared to alpha and theta both. Right? So I can draw the curve. This is for alpha. What I should write? G alpha. Free energy versus composition curve for alpha. And about theta, it will be of small curve, for example. So this is G theta, fine, small curve. And can you draw liquid? How the position of liquid will be? Just imagine. Okay. And you remember, if you have two phase, what you can do? Common tangent rule. You can join them. Anybody remember what is this and what is this? This is the equilibrium composition. This composition is equilibrium with this composition. This composition of alpha phase is equilibrium with this composition of theta phase. That means. And this part will show you what? Free energy of this two mixture, you remember? This part will show you the free energy of this two mixture. Because alpha is here and theta is here. So mixture of alpha and theta, free energy is given by this. Okay. So can you draw the liquid line? Okay, this will be higher free energy. You can see the position of alpha. The free energy of alpha is this much, very low. Free energy of theta is also low in this side. But liquid, the free energy is high. Right? This will be above this alpha and theta. So curve of liquid. So this will be G liquid. You understood my point? Suppose this is T is equal to T2, for example, at temperature. Because you have to mention temperature. Remember, no? That is more important. At what temperature you want to find? Suppose I want to find at this temperature. That means liquid is more stable, not alpha, not theta. So liquid line will be less, but alpha and theta line will be high. But here that means I am taking a temperature of suppose this much, T2 temperature. Okay, let it be this much of temperature. T2 is this much. T2. This is T2. Fine. But can you tell me if I will increase the temperature from T2? Just have a look. This is the T2 temperature. T2 temperature easily showing alpha is stable, theta is stable, but liquid is unstable. That's why liquid energy is higher. The curve is higher, right? But if you raise the temperature to eutectic point or eutectic temperature from here to this region, then how I can draw the diagram? At eutectic point, what is happening? All phases are present. Liquid is also there. Alpha is there. Theta is there. So what happened? What will be the changes? So that means equilibrium composition will be same. So what will happen? Liquid curve will go down and meet this point. You understood my point? Very interesting. So what will happen? I can change the curve. Alpha theta is fine, but liquid free energy is also going down. It will become this. In this common tangent, all will be there. So this condition is what? At T is equal to eutectic temperature. Maybe in the mid semester, free energy diagram will be given. You have to this one is temperature versus composition diagram will be given. You have to draw this kind of diagram. It is very easy actually. So this is now. Okay, forget about this line. See, we are not dealing with liquid. We are dealing with solid and solid, right? Anybody remember what is this part? This is the stability range of alpha and theta. This part, and this is the alpha region, and this part is the theta region, right? Okay, so that means you have chosen a composition of 4 weight percentage. So the composition will be in between this. Suppose this is the composition, 4 weight percentage. So if I will draw a line, this will cut alpha. Suppose this is the alpha. This composition is in between this composition and this composition. Yes or no? You can see, because this is alpha and theta, this region. This is alpha region, this is theta region, and this is alpha plus theta. So this region is in between this region and this region. Okay? In between this composition, right? So you have an alloy of this composition and you want to make alpha only. So where you will go? You go to the alpha region, because this curve is showing you what? Free energy of alpha only. So you have to go to this region. This composition is showing you can form alpha if you go to this region, and this will be the free energy of alpha. But you just check, and what is the free energy of alpha plus theta? That is alpha and theta. You understood? This is the free energy of alpha plus theta. This is the free energy of alpha when the composition is this much. So which one is higher, which one is lower? Combination is lower?
Yes.
Right? So what will happen? This will decompose to this. That means alpha will be not remain stable now. It wants to decrease its free energy. That means alpha become, this energy is high, this energy is low. So that's why, because you can see this energy is this much, but when this much of composition having this much of energy, it will decrease to this much. Any confusion?
थीटा बन जाएगा ना, थीटा का तो उससे भी ज़्यादा जाएगा।
No. I see. We are talking about, we are taking all the copper into alpha phase. That's why. Right? So this much of 8% of copper will completely go into alpha phase. So you have to draw a diagram to alpha phase only. That is the reason. Right? So since the free energy of alpha will be higher, so it will decompose into mixture of alpha plus theta. This is the concept. Okay, just you check the expression of delta GF, please. Check the expression of delta GF. No, from internet. Just yeah. That is 4 by 3 pi r cube delta G plus 4 pi r square gamma plus 4 by 3 pi r cube G. Right? Check that expression. Right? So now tell me, which one is driving force, which one is barrier to the nucleation. See, whenever there will be phase transformation, it may be liquid to solid, solid to liquid, or solid to solid. It always involves two things. There will be a driving force. Why you are studying? Because you want to get place. You want to earn money at the end, right? So that's why you are studying. That is your driving force. Or maybe your parents are forcing you to study, right? I don't know. But maybe the driving force, right? So similarly, whenever the phase transformation want to happen, there should be a driving force that will drive the transformation. And obviously, there should be a barrier also. I don't know what is the barrier with you right now. Maybe the online classes. That's fine. COVID, yeah, I can say. Right? You want to get place, that's why you are studying, but the barrier is the COVID right now. The virus. Anyways. So similarly, the phase transformation want to happen. there is a driving force, but there is also barrier. Now from the expression, just tell me which one is the barrier, which one is the driving force.
Surface energy is barrier.
Surface energy, very good. That is the barrier, and the barrier is the strain energy, because that is also positive. Very good. And what is the driving force? The volume free energy. You can write it. You will forget it otherwise. So volume free energy is the driving force, but the surface free energy and the strain energy are the barrier to the transformation. You write it. You will forget it otherwise. Up to this it is okay? Just tell me one point. I have a question. Just check the diagram, phase diagram, and tell me. Suppose you are at temperature of I have chosen a temperature of T2. Just tell me, if you are at T2 temperature and you are at T3 temperature, where the driving force is higher? Driving force is higher at T2 or T3? T3, very good. T3. You remember the undercooling? Anybody remember the undercooling? In liquid to solid transmission, you remember undercooling part?
Yes.
Tm minus T. Right? More you go below the melting point, more will be the driving force available. Anybody remember now? Right? More in liquid to solid transformation, more we go below the melting point, more driving force will be available, and that will give you more nucleation rate. More number of nuclei will form. Right? Similarly, if you are at this temperature now, and you are more going down, so this gap is what? Increasing or decreasing?
Decreasing.
Increasing. Initially, suppose you are at T2, the gap is this much, but now you are at T3, the gap is more, so more delta G will be there. Right? This is one part. And another part is, if you increase the composition, suppose I will increase the composition to 6 weight%, then 7 weight%, what will happen? Precipitation will be more or less?
Precipitation more.
Precipitation will be more. Very good. If you increase the composition, then precipitation will be more and more and more. That is another funda, you have to remember. Okay, this kind of alloy is called duralumin. Maybe in school days you might have studied duralumin. Duralumin is used to make aircrafts or aeroplanes. The copper of aluminium and the alloy of aluminium and copper is called duralumin. That is used to make aircrafts or aeroplanes. Why? Because aluminium is very lighter. You cannot fly a component which will be heavy or denser. Aluminium is very light, and amount of copper is also very less, like 4% copper, right? And aluminium also have a good strength also, right? But how you are increasing the strength? By forming precipitates. So if you use pure aluminium and you use aluminium and copper alloy, which one is good? Obviously alloy of aluminium and copper is good, because precipitate formation will be there, it will increase the strength. You know, I told you many times, I think, the Audi car, you know, right? So nowadays, those are basically, they make basically sports car. Sports cars should be light in weight, basically. Basically, sports cars should be light in weight. So nowadays, they are not using steels. Completely, entire car is made up of aluminium nowadays. You can imagine. But if you compare the strength of aluminium and steel, which one will be higher? Steel will be higher. But still we are not using. Why? Because of this precipitation. Because formation of precipitate is providing you strength. If you are using steel, it will provide you strength. If you use aluminium, it will not provide you strength. But you still want strength in aluminium. What can be done? You just add alloying element which will form precipitate. That will provide you strength. But that may not be comparable with steel. But what advantage you will get? Car will be very lighter. ये घर पूरा एल्यूमिनियम से बनाओ और आयरन से बनाओ, स्टील से. एल्यूमिनियम घर, अगर एल्यूमिनियम का घर होगा तो लाइटर होगा, बहुत हल्का होगा, काइंड ऑफ थिंग आई एम सेइंग, राइट? So what will happen? If the car will be lighter, fuel efficiency will be less or more? By 1 liter you can travel 30 kilometers, for example. Not exactly. Suppose you can travel 10 kilometers, but if you use a steel, you can travel only 2 kilometers. you don't have enough money for petrol or diesel. You don't have money to buy Audi. Anyways, you can buy it near future. Okay, anyway, so you understood the concept? Okay, you can end up.